Hey, John.
Throughout the eons, mythic heroes have risen and fallen like a cosmic tide and have helped steer the course of history. These great beings took a myriad of shapes and forms and played many roles, from stalwart defenders to dastardly villains, but one constant held true. They were drawn together in the direst of times by the collective hopes of the multitude of the multiverse. Where empires and armies failed, there came the heroes. Where civilizations crumbled and nature faltered, there fought the heroes. Where the celestials and fiends, titans, and even the gods themselves did tremble, there stood the heroes. And once again, a group of individuals cut from the same heroic cloth are drawn together. Will they rise to the occasion and walk amongst the immortals? Or will their footsteps be mere shadows of the past, soon to fade into legend, and legend into myth? This is their tale, the story of the last generation of their kind. What's going on, Ahmed?
No, I found an image that we can use, but it's so pathetic. It's awesome.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to DieDragonDie Presents Legends. I'm your host and GM, Marty. How was everyone's week?
It was meh.
You know, that thing that happens between, gaming sessions?
That doesn't sound like something that actually happens. That sounds like,
right.
It sounds like downtime.
Busy.
My wife is getting us another puppy. We got to go see it, and it was cute and fluffy and nippy and poopy and all of the puppy things that puppies do.
And does it require
What is
a
this,
college
cat
tuition?
in a hat?
Doesn't require college tuition. Does require several $100s worth of vaccinations and drugs each year.
You would be better off spending it on a strong heroin addiction. It will do less to ruin your life.
Oh no!
Speaking as a pet owner.
As a pet owner,
I thought you were
my
speaking
shepherd,
as a parent.
So.
I know.
Oh no! If you're gonna have children, go with meth. Straight up meth.
It's a lot cheaper and it'll kill you a lot faster.
Woo! Busy week.
I started my new job, which is pretty cool.
Congrats.
Nice. Congrats, man.
More production, better, faster, stronger.
Actually, weirdly enough, they're not super productive-y, so I sit there like probably about 40 to 30% of the time with nothing to do, which is kind of awkward because my boss sits right behind me, so I can't just like play around on Reddit or something. So
Is your work never over?
technically, yes.
Hands up. Never over. Never-ending job.
It's just a lot it's a lot of waiting for people to have time so that I can come help them with things because they're busy with their jobs.
All right.
Yeah.
Yay! Everybody's getting old and tired.
All right. So what is not old and tired is D&D. Yay. as a reminder to everyone, we decided that we're going to actually play through the backstories of each of the characters, one per session, basically, to kind of set the context for the character within the campaign world itself. Each of the characters are from a different world. I kind of realized that I'm in for a lot of work over the last week, and then for the next 3 weeks, as I need to build worlds and fun stories and encounters for each of the characters. So that's what I've been busy doing in my spare time, aside from day job. So maybe we'll start with a recap of episode 1, and then we'll dive into Sir Galath's backstory. He is from a world called Nalbren, which we will get a feeling for when we start playing. So let's look at what happened last game, shall we?
Okay.
I decided to basically base the calendar that for some reason has spread across a few of the worlds. The calendar is based off of the Celtic calendar, so each of the 13 months is actually related to a tree, which I thought was really neat when I came across it. So
It's like the streets of my neighborhood.
lots of crabapple trees, Mark.
You have no idea.
The 30th day of Hawthorne, 607, the 607th turn of the third Plexian cycle. An ancient rune-covered menhir awakens with great magic, summoning 6 strangers by powers unknown from far-off worlds. The strangers arrive outside the great hall of Salar Wormsbine, atop a plateau in the town of Runeshod. Their numbers include a muddied knight and his armored horse, a large strong man, a gnome in a walking tree, a half-elven archer, an elven wizard, and a dwarf in a bathtub. The powerful magic had addled their minds, as many struggled to remember from whence they came, and even their own names. Despite different mother tongues, however, they discover that they're able to understand each other, presumably a gift of the runestones that they carry. Also at the menhir, they find a slain old man with white hair and robes. The man has no discernible wounds and is carrying a few magical trinkets. The strangers barely have enough time to get their bearings when they spot armed humanoids climbing a cliff face in the dark. The gnome identifies them as orcs. The strong man sends a number of them back down the cliff using firebombs to cut their climbing ropes. Upon hearing the noise, a local guardian named Ingrid Lyasdottir, a shield maiden of Heimdall, confronts the party. After spotting other movement in the shadows and more foes at the bottom of the cliff, Ingrid and the strangers enter Salar Wormsbine. Inside, they find that the structure was built in part using the bones of a massive dragon. The hall is adorned with large blocky statues of wood and stone, gods perhaps, plus many life-size statues of heroes and strange beings. Assassins, both orc and half-orcish, Orc-nesker, as Ingrid called them, attack Ingrid and the strangers. Had Ingrid been alone, she would have likely died. The combined might, however, the strangers defeat these infiltrators. There's a brief moment where you get to speak to Ingrid, and you gain a little bit of knowledge from her. Ingrid explains that no one living in the town has traveled by way of stones or by way of the tree. She thinks the gnome is from the people of the lake, as she recognizes the symbol of Yggdrasil. She asked the party if they knew some very specific people, but they didn't recognize the names. She recognized that the strong man was somehow related to a hero in Salar Wormsbine, and that most of the townsfolk of Runeshod were currently gathered in the village commons at the funeral of the Jarlson. This, of course, alarmed her because if there were infiltrators wandering around the edges of the town, it meant that few guards were on the walls. With a rise of alarm and sounds of siege engines bouncing rocks off stonework, Ingrid heads towards the village commons. When the muddy knight goes to fetch his horse, he notices more orc raiders climbing the cliff face. Another melee ensues in the vicinity of the Menhir, and the party sends a half-dozen Orknesker axemen plus a Doom Priest of Grumsh back down the cliffside. After gathering their breath, they come to the realization that they've arrived at a town under attack. Now, we're going to play tonight Galath's backstory, so we're actually going to go back in time. I'll do a little bit of exposition of what happened to Galath when he was a child, and then we'll get into a few scenes that are of poignant moments or events in Galath's life or on the world of Nalbren, and describe what Galath himself begins to remember as he's moving towards the town center, or as the party collects their or takes a breath, and prepares for the orc attack in town. So basically, this is a flood of memories that is coming back to Galath at this point in time, and that's what this game is going to be about.
Sweet. Let's do this.
Yeah. Now, what are the other players going to do? You just sit there and do nothing. No.
Yeah, of course.
We're just here to listen and eat Doritos.
It is tax time, so I'm supposed to get some sort of tuition credit thingy. It's really complex. I don't know.
Right.
You are going to sign for my volunteer hours, right?
RSP contributions.
Given that the players agreed that we would all do one session for each of their backstories, so that seemed to be something that everyone was willing to do, we decided to do this as our stories last, 60 to 100 games. We might as well spend at least one game playing the backstories of the heroes. Also, they will have bit parts, NPCs, and perhaps even some of the foes that Galath will face in his younger years. And
Kill him! Kill him!
It might
And
be
thus, Galath remembered that he died
Right.
in his youth and was not
Galath
here.
is actually a zombie.
well, as you recall, we never knew Galath's name. Because
Right.
you couldn't remember his name, so it could be like Galath's
It was
brother.
Gareth. Oh, it was Gareth. Wow, this is great.
It wouldn't even be the first time I've had to pull that out after doing a backstory with another when I was running games.
Yeah, so we should have fun with this. Let me tell you a little bit about Nalbren, and you'll get a feeling for it. If you've ever watched, there's a great some of the inspiration for Nalbren. If you ever watched the History Channel Dark Ages, how balls the Dark Ages were. So I think Nalbren is kind of like trying in its earnest to recover from this horrible time. The shining light of Arthurian legend was their past, and things have gotten much worse since the fall of the disappearance and the fall of this Arthurian kingdom-like ideal. There are a few beacons of hope amongst this sort of Dark Age world of Nalbren. Some of them might be paladins like Galath, but we'll see how he fits into that mythology and how he fits into that world. So this is long before the white flash that was disorienting that took Galath from his home. The homeworld of Nalbren. What can I say of the people there? Currently, as they're going through their darkest of ages, they are bent-backed, bow-legged, brow-beaten, and broken. The land from which Galath hails is divided amongst 5 kingdoms and many other smaller fiefdoms. It was once a land that had one king who sat upon King's Isle. That isle is now called the Island of Blood. For many generations, knights and armies have sought ruin there, fighting over the scraps of the kingdom long ago. Galath's land, the land known simply as Nalbren to the common folk, is one in which plague, war, and misery. The uneducated masses clinging to their tiny hovels, trying to eke out an existence. Not all was so unclean. There were bits and pieces scattered, hope, like fragments of a great vessel. Galath. Galath is the son of a knight named Glyde, son of Galan. Galath's father's rise was through bravery and loyal service to the High Regent, a title that was commonly fought over amongst the Five Kingdoms, also known as the Pentarchy. The current High Regent eventually named Glyde Lord Knight of the Fortress of Cairbrand. Let me expose, I'm a fan of hex maps, kind of a la Mystara back in the day, so I created this week a hex map of Nalbren, or at least the corner from which Galath comes from. And I'm only going to expose once this loads. It's a really big file, so it's going to take a moment. Let me just unfog. Oh, yeah, that's why we can't see anything. Galath, do you have any ranks in knowledge geography?
Let me look.
That kind of fighter.
Do you have any ranks in knowledge anything?
Nobility and religion, the most important of
Okay,
knowledges.
so if you had knowledge ranks in knowledge geography, I was going to give you a roll to see how much of the map I'll uncover. Because you don't, I'm going to give you an int check. Go ahead.
Int checks are my specialty.
-7.
I sense sarcasm.
Woo, 4.
Okay,
Yeah.
so I'm going to just
lost
show
the way to
you
the bathroom.
basically your world for the first little bit of your life was the citadel that was built during Arthurian times that your family still dwells in, and everything that citadel could see. Because why else would you leave a citadel if your father was the lord of such? So basically,
If you got a citadel, you stay at the citadel. I mean,
this is what you... Oh, let's see where I...
can you center me to map? 'Cause I
Yeah,
don't see.
I'm gonna force you guys there. And force center.
There we go.
Nice.
Here,
This world's so huge.
Your world
outside
is
the citadel.
enormous.
I'll zoom in.
There's so much outside of the fortress.
Did you claim it?
No, I don't have the BP to claim it at Ahmed.
And then there's a great picture of that is related to Arthurian myth, and I believe it's under public license, and I'll just kind of flash that, just to give you an idea of what the citadel looks like. This is where Galath was born and spent the first 12 years, learning the courtly and knightly arts. Its walls and servants and well-kept land shielded Galath from the growing misery of the world. Galath was the third child of Lord Knight Glyde and Paravida of Korak, your mother. Galath's eldest sibling, his brother Leon, became his father's squire when he was of age. When Galath was young, Galath's sister fell in love with a knight from her mother's homeland of Korak and moved to live in a small keep somewhere on the Windsand shore. Give me a knowledge geography, see if you know where Korak is.
In check.
In check.
17. Yeah.
Okay, so Korak is somewhere... The Windsand shore, the Sandy shore, as it's also known as, and I'll give you an idea of how far away that is.
Oh wow, that's quite a ways away.
Huh. So you know it as the place way the tits
Holy
over
cow.
there.
Yeah,
It's like on another. It's like you keep on walking until you see other water, and it's somewhere over there.
Your
Keep on
goodbye was,
writing.
well, you have a good life.
right.
The 12-mile
fact
hexes,
four.
so it's like hundreds of miles away. It's not impossible to see. You know that Korak is one of the because you do have ranks in knowledge and ability. You do know that Korak is one of the 5 kingdoms.
Cool.
It was in Galath's 11th year that his life would change. His father, the Lord Knight, was called to strike his banners and sent to war in the Northlands of Lionsdeer, also known as the Lion's Den and beyond. Galath's brother, of course being his father's squire, went with him. Nearly a year thereafter, a famine hit the lands formerly known as Gaelnoka. Did I pronounce that properly?
Ganica.
Ganica? You don't pronounce the L's?
Ganica. Yeah, essentially.
Okay. So yours is a kingdom that was a kingdom a long time ago and kind of lost its kingdomhood and hasn't really been restored as a kingdom. So yours would be a sixth kingdom if it ever got its king back.
Gotcha.
So, but
The
the
Hexarchy would be a much cooler name.
The Hexarchy, well...
Well, I guess that's what I'm going to call it when I restore my kingdom.
Give me one more knowledge
Geography?
geography to see if you know how close the lands of the Lion's Den are.
5. They are that way, maybe.
You know that they're north, and there are stories that if you climb the highest peaks of a mountain range, that you can actually see the other mountain range on the other side.
Okay.
And that giants used to throw rocks back and forth between those two mountain ranges. That was the tale that you kind of... Yeah.
The battle lines of the giants.
Sure. For Galath's safety, as the plague raged across Gainoka, or the lands around the fortress of Caerbran, his mother sent him to live in the wilderness with an old family friend, Sir Pelin Nalgray of Vontelstone. I'm going to show you what Sir Pelin looks like, as he was an important influence on Galath's life. There's Sir Pelin. And then here's his son. He had a son who was a little bit older than you. His name is Avery. At the time, he was not already a knight. He was only a few years older than you. Vontelstone, you know where it is, sort of relative to Caerbran. It's kind of on the edge of another kingdom, and it's actually pretty far away. She sent you way south.
Away from all the fighting.
It's by the coast. You do remember the road. You pass through a forest, fields, forest, hills, a little bit more forest, and then Vontelstone. Now, Vontelstone, it was you remember it was that Sir Pelin actually arrived at the castle. Mm-hmm. And for some reason, he didn't fear the plague. Later on, you'd realize it's because Sir Pelin was a paladin. And likely the reason why your mother called upon Sir Pelin to keep you safe. The plague began to ravage not only the lands, but also people in the keep. And she basically sent you away to a healthier little place, a humble little manor. The manor house was fortified, because it is. Most knights did fortify their homes. It had a stable, a small shrine dedicated to some of the older gods, including the Silverhand, whose religion has been sparking up like small fires of hope across all of Nalbren. Lady Paravida refused to abandon her people, however. She had a bit of the healer's touch, nothing magical. She just knew about herbs and poultices. She helped alleviate the suffering of the people around Citadel Caerbran. However, you would learn years later that she eventually too caught the plague and died for her efforts. For some time, no one dared enter the fortress of Caerbran, as death hung in its air and stone. Galath, you lived with the old paladin at his humble manor of Vontelstone. They also had a watermill.
Cool.
The shrine contained books about the Silver Hand, old gods and knightly heroes of old. Sir Pelin continued your battle training with sword and shield, lance and horse. And at the time you didn't realize it, but he tempered all of this with the Silver Hand's code. Of course, Sir Pelin believed that his son Avery would become a paladin, and you his squire.
What a dick.
So how do you react? Okay, the old man has you've been training, and you guys are kids, and this would have happened, a couple of years after you arrived at Vontelstone. You already know
13, 14 years old, something like that.
Yeah. When he invites you, there is a resident priest of Nuada Silverhand that comes and visits the shrine every once in a while, and he seems to be friends with Sir Pelin. You know him simply as the abbot. Apparently, they're not really big for names. I'll show you what the abbot looks like.
He looks very abbot-y.
Yes. The first time, this is shortly before you became knight, they had some business to attend to. There was a man that was accused of stealing, and they had captured him. And given that Sir Pelin was a knight and took an oath to bear arms and to meet justice, it was to Sir Pelin that it fell the justice. At least to him and to the abbot, I suppose. They did a peculiar ordeal to decide. It was upon the abbot's insistence. Sir Pelin didn't seem to like it too much. But what they ended up doing was they prepared a boiling cauldron of water and dropped a pebble inside. And in the light of Nuada the Fair, we have called to judge this man for his guilt or innocence. And just as Nuada Silverhand gave up his arm in fighting the Firbolgs and ridding the land of giants, for our farmers see their footsteps, the caves upon which they once dwelled, as proof of this. And in so giving up his hand, so too shall this man be judged. By his hand he shall undergo the ordeal. The thief, you know what? Let's make it the old man that you're playing in his younger years, Adam.
Oh.
You, Sir Clyde, or you, Freeman Clyde, will you partake in the ordeal? Clyde, what's your...
Do
you know?
Do I have is there a choice?
If you do not partake in the ordeal, then you are guilty, and you shall be punished, says Sir Pelin.
Then I partake in the ordeal. I partake in the ordeal. I partake in the ordeal.
All right. They bring you into the room with the boiling cauldron of water, and you can see that there is a small rounded stone, as if it was plucked from a river, like the type of stone you put on a sauna, like sauna rocks.
Silverhand, save me!
The priest, with great ceremony, goes over to the pot and plops the stone in. It does. The stone does nothing to stop the bubbling and the boiling of the water, unfortunately. That's not how it works.
Uh,
Then with your left hand, the hand of the same hand that Nuada sacrificed, you must grabbeth the stone from the boiling pot. That is your ordeal.
At least
Nuada,
they're not making you eat bread and find out if you choke if you eat too much bread. Another common
do I get
determining
a
technique.
gauntlet as of Nuada?
Yeah, so Sir Pelin does own a silvery gauntlet that he wears on his left hand. His son looks like he wants to hit you, but Sir Pelin raises his hand like, no. The silver hand of Nuada is for those that take the oaths to him. No, my fair man, my brave man, you are standing to be judged, not for his blessing. No, they're not giving you any gloves or protective devices.
Sour. I don't wanna.
Quick, start telling them a long, rambling story that goes nowhere and lets the water cool down.
Is the water being heated?
The water, the cauldron is sitting on top of some like warm coals. Yeah, it's boiling.
Oh no.
It better be a long, long story.
Let me tell you about the days of old. Since I wish to know if I think they're serious. I feel like they're serious.
Yep, the man. So there are some freemen. This lord's strange, as you realize you wandered into the wrong place to beg, quote unquote. This lord has made friends with all the families, all the freeman families that are around his manor, and they all acted together like some big mob when they chased you down. Like, you hope that you'd be able to hide in the next kind of, like, the next family farm barn over. They already knew you were coming by the time that they were there. Like, you went to the wrong place to play beggar.
Corruption. Or order, one of the two. Pick one. I will, I suppose, try.
Okay, so
Grab. Like I will burn my fingertippies and hope that makes them happy.
okay, so you touch the water the same way that when you're cooking, like, at home, and you kind of like touch the pan and go, "Ooh, that's hot."
Ooh.
Oh my.
Okay, so you get the sense that patience of I guess he would be an older lad, kind of 18 around this time. Avery, obviously the spitting image of Sir Pelin. He seems to be growing impatient. That is thrice that you have tried to avert, once with words and once by flinching. You have one more try before we shall make you fetch the stone. Apparently, by you acquiescing and saying yes, you'll do it, it's like the hammer dropped kind of thing. And you do notice that there are some tough-looking farm folk men. They do have like pitchforks and like smithing tools. They each have like a weapon, and they're kind of piling into the room at this point in time. There are 6 men, in addition to the abbot, the Sir Pelin, and his son. Well, and then there's a boy who's looking at you. Galath, how are you reacting to this?
It all depends on how things were back in the Fortress of Carebron. Was public public punishment common, or did Galath's father handle things differently?
Galath's father would have had a much larger area.
Much larger cauldron.
He would have had a much larger area over which to look, and he would have had sheriffs. Only a couple of times that you know of, he had to ride out and basically meet justice against nobles. and people would come to his like lordly hall and make complaints, and he'd make rulings. But you don't remember ever, or at least you were never exposed to him going off and doing this. This is really backwater justice.
Clyde is pulling off his jerkin.
Okay.
Well, Galath is watching with sort of a silent horror, eyes wide, and like, what the fuck are we really doing this?
And I'm gonna wrap my arm in the jerkin.
Okay. The older lad Avery seems to want to stop you, but Sir Pelin, it will make no difference, is what he says quietly to Avery.
It's medieval ages. I don't know physics. Fuck that. I don't know. I'm going to.
The abbot goes over and it has like a holly berry kind of thing, and kind of like whips you in the face while he says a harsh prayer. It doesn't hurt. It's just he's speaking in some tongue that you don't understand.
I don't mumble any prayers to a god that I might follow in front of these people who likely do not follow the same god. And I will try really hard. Don't know if I'm physically capable of doing what they're asking me to do, but I'll plunge my arm,
Galath steps forward
and flick the stone out,
and shouts out, "Stop!"
Okay.
This is not right.
Sir Pelin, he must be punished. He must be tested. And after he goes through this ordeal, he will never be caught stealing again.
Is there no other way he could pay penance?
Observe, and you shall understand, says Sir Pelin. Give me a sense motive.
Okay.
Do I get one?
Sure.
Because I'd like to know if there's a way out. I don't do good. I do bad. Bad rogue.
Yeah, 11.
It's all the farmers. It's all the grubby, rough-looking farm folk behind you, like that they're just about ready to put your hand in there and hold it in there. At least you just have to grab the stone and pick it out.
Yeah.
What did you roll for your sense motive, John?
11.
Yeah, it seems like Sir Galath is Sir Pelin is being particularly harsh.
Knowing better than to challenge his elders, he steps back in line and sullenly watches.
Okay.
So we want to be really fast.
Yep.
Speed is the name of the game. In, out, and off with the thingy, and flap around like a chicken. That's the plan.
Okay, so
Is that what
Clyde,
That is Clyde's plan.
Clyde, give me a perception check as you're groping around in the burning cauldron up to your elbow for the rock that's somewhere at the bottom.
Oh god.
Oh, my life is the fucked. Okay.
As Clyde plunges his hand in.
Quick. Oh no, 14.
Oh, you actually touched the rock and it moved, and now the pain is starting to kind of, like, you're in shock, groping around for the thing. Give me an attack roll. This will be a melee attack. See if you grab the rock.
What's the AC of a rock?
I want to
It's a
sleight of
small
hand.
rock.
Sleight of hand?
You've got sleight of hand.
I'm a rogue, and I'm a thief.
Sure. You could. Sure, I'll let that happen. You were good at manipulating small objects with your fingers.
I used to could. Oh god, these rolls. Okay, 11.
Okay, so it is a small object that is stationary. However, you can't see it, but you sensed where it was with your 14 basically. I'm gonna give you a 20% mischance because of the pain and the boiling water and.
So you roll a d100.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
don't miss.
You grab a hold of the rock, and somehow your fingers are still able to do it. Your whole body is screaming. And for a brief moment, everything felt cold when you raised your hand out of the water.
No time to contemplate fucked up experimenting.
You fall back with the rock, the same rock that you will carry until you meet Galath later on, many years later. The same rock, the last of your possessions, when you are found in the place that Galath sees you in later on. You fall back in shock, basically, as now pain overwhelms you from the burns. You immediately see your arm beginning to bubble, like skin bubbling, and you're screaming. The abbot, the abbot can cast spells to heal him, but he doesn't. Apparently the ordeal is not over. They actually carry the man who's still clutching the stone stubbornly. Usually they drop it, is what one of the farmers said, almost callously. A few of the farmers leave because they saw this done, or a couple of them are, now we wait. They look to Pelin and the abbot nods. By Nuada, now we wait. Tyr shall decide. Tyr, father? Yes. Nuada Silverhand serves a greater lord, just as we serve greater lords. It is the hierarchy that keeps the world together when it works, says Sir Pelin. Tyr is the god that will decide. Tyr is the god who decide. What that means, you're not sure. But they do take the man into a back room. The room has a straw mat. Occasionally some of the farm hands or like visiting merchants will be given this room. It's essentially a clean room at the back of a barn. It is secure, and some of the farmers, the ones that are really out for that are really convinced that this guy was like some sort of thief, are kind of stand guard outside of the barn. While this guy is wailing in pain. The abbot and Sir Pelin do gather clean bandages, and they go and eventually when the guy calms down, they do apply bandages to the wounds. It's curious that they're not actually healing him.
I don't want blood poisoning. They're monsters. Your home sucks.
You're looking a little green, says Avery.
We never did things like that back in Cabran.
Cabran's got a dungeon, doesn't it?
Well, it's empty now.
Well, I'm sure the lords of Cabran have done much worse in dungeons. At least their orders have, is what he says. Avery's never liked the fact that you came from Cabran.
He's just jealous.
Give me a sense motive about Avery. Like you're like, it's like your brother, but
Your douchey brother.
Well, yeah, like my crappy, shitty adopted stepbrother.
No, he's brave. He's strong. He's good with the horse and the lance.
Doesn't mean he's not a douche. Come on, I hate your brother.
I don't think that's the way to paladinhood. Just heads up.
Don't listen to Paladin.
That was a 12, John.
Yeah, it was a 12.
Yeah. Yeah. Avery basically wants to become his father's replacement. Like, not necessarily, like he's not
plotting his.
He's not plotting for it, but he is being groomed to be the next knight of Vontelstone, and they've built kind of a little oasis here. While there are not a lot of serfs, and there are freeman families around, Sir Pelin has done a good job at being the ideal sort of knight. You seem to have taken more to the teachings of Nuada, however, than Avery has. Avery, while he listens to his father dutifully, just doesn't seem to have the zeal on the religious side. He seems to lean a little bit more towards the martial. That doesn't keep Sir Avery from insisting.
God's an asshole.
Nuada?
Look at my fucking hand.
Well, Nuada is a lawful neutral god who sacrificed his hand to save Nalbren from these horrible creatures of the past called Fearbolgs. And now all these lords, all these priests, wear silver gauntlets on their left hand to
This justice system is poo-poo.
So you're
Did you see how it was before Nuada came along? It was literally just Furbolgs at you.
There's an awkward dinner later on. The abbot is tending to the abbot's tending to the prisoner still, and Sir Pelin, you guys are having I don't know, some roast pheasant with some turnips, a little bit of like an oat porridge that's left over from the morning.
In a garret.
And a very, very light beer. It is the only alcohol that Sir Pelin will allow.
Because it's not like infected bacteria-filled water.
Has distilling been invented in this place? Because medieval's pre-distilling, but we got magic and alchemy.
The problem with Nalbren is that there was probably a late Middle Age era during the Arthurian times that may have bordered on early Renaissance, but then it all went backwards.
Right.
There might be people who can make brandy.
There might be people who can make brandy out there, right?
Right. The whole concept of the Dark Age in real history is the influence of the Roman Empire went everywhere, and they brought all of their knowledge with it. And then when it collapsed, all you left behind were a bunch of people who were like, "How does this work?"
How do I science?
Right.
How long is he going to stay, Father? It depends on how well his arm heals. Avery, he's not Sir yet. Avery doesn't seem to understand. Do you have knowledge local, Nalbren? Usually laws fall under a local.
Nope, just nobility and religion.
I do!
Nobility and religion?
I read a lot of books. A lot of books.
I'll let you make a more difficult knowledge religion. Now that you've seen the thing, you might actually recognize the thing.
Gotcha. 24. Yeah, that's not too bad.
They're gonna wait to see how the arm heals. If it heals well, then he's innocent. If it heals with if it gets infected, he's guilty.
Oh. Oh dear.
Hopefully I have AIDS so I can't get infections. Like, I don't know what I want here.
So you understand what they're doing. If it gets really infected, he might lose his arm anyways, which would have been kind of a punishment to begin with.
Now, is this is this in keeping with what Galath has learned about Nuada from the books?
This is very harsh Nuadan justice.
Okay. But it's not just some guy being like, "This is what I say is in the books, and you can't read, peasants."
No, but it's so punishing the guilty and those that prey upon the innocent is something that is in the holy text of Nuada. This particular ordeal, the ordeal could take different forms. This is particular. Sure. This is the one that the abbot, I guess, prefers.
Gotcha. I guess his question is, how did we know he was guilty in the first place?
Yeah, it's not necessarily all logical.
Right.
It's justice system.
Sounds like
You over?
So this is like This is the kind of paladin you want me to play, Marty? All right. Fetch the cauldron.
No, what I'm saying is
I know. I'm just.
there may be barbarisms that Galath does not appreciate or like.
Yeah.
You are very brave today, says Sir Pelin. He's talking to you, Galath. Standing up for what you believe.
If I had been brave, I would have saved him.
Nuada can be very strict. It is in the temperance of those that meet justice that true justice can be found. Do you think that man will ever try to steal again?
Not with that hand.
We will not.
I don't think he'll have a chance.
His life is not forfeit. When he has done his ordeal, he will either have his hand with the mark of remembrance, or he will not have his hand, as Nuada gave his. And he will be free to go, to live the rest of his life. Pray to the gods that he learns his lesson. And Sir Pelin pushes food around his plate, as apparently he doesn't really like what he was kind of called upon to do as the local knight of this region. All right, give me a fort save. Clyde.
Yay!
Clyde the rogue.
Clyde
Fort
the
save.
one-handed rogue.
I might. Yeah. Okay. I can fort save. I'll fort save all day. I'm not scared.
Okay, so it's DC 12. They keep your hand pretty clean.
Fitty.
No.
See ya.
Okay, so over the next week, his hand just gets worse and worse and worse, and it festers. And despite even the abbot and Sir Pelin's best tries at making the arm not be disgusting, perhaps he was sick when this began.
Or maybe it's just a horrifically barbaric thing to do to someone.
Maybe they kept me in a barn, and that's
He's
hard to be
guilty.
cleaned in a barn.
He's guilty. The gods have spoken.
In the eyes of Nuada, he receives the most holy of blessings and sacrifices his arm. Basically, they take it off with a hot axe, with a single axe swing on the 8th day.
Wow, you're lucky it was just one.
And give me a fort save. You get a +4.
Yay!
You get a +4 on this one because they're actually trying to keep you alive.
Uh-oh.
It is finally with the touch of Sir Galath's. No, sorry, not Sir Galath. Sir Pelin's hand that glows, that stops the profuse bleeding from your sickened stump, as you are then tended to back to a decent, healthy state. Walked to the edge of the furthest farm from their collective, and sent on your merry way with a small bag of food and a hunting snare.
Worst hospitality. 0 out of 5. Would not stay again.
You're getting a negative Yelp review.
See, I'm gonna say the worst hospitality was when those guys showed up to that village and this big dude started pushing them off a cliff.
That's pretty bad too. But
After firebombing them.
After firebombing their ropes. 0-10
Marty,
would not stay.
could I perhaps change some of my gear around because I think he will trade his short bow for a hand crossbow. If that's all right.
A hand crossbow might be a little too advanced, so you could have a light crossbow, and you
Give him a sling. Oh.
You can fire
A bunch of
crossbows with
knives?
one hand.
Throw knives?
Yeah, probably a bunch of knives.
Okay.
Crossbows are kind of lion's den weapons. They're kind of
Good.
advanced.
Good thing
All
you
right.
weren't stealing with your feet.
Sir Pelin is impressed with Galath's bravery and speaking up during this thing. He saw that you learned that he appreciated this, and as your reward, now this may not, well, as your reward, he names you squire to his son.
Yay.
Thanks, Dad.
Thanks, new dad.
What is your reaction to this?
Galath bows his head in respect, and Sir Pelin, thank you. You've done so much for me ever since my mother sent me here, and I thank you for giving me this opportunity. I will not let you down.
Is Galath being truthful?
Yes.
Your humility is an example for us all, is what he says. That might have been a backhanded comment towards his son, who is within earshot of this conversation.
I don't want to derail anything, but did I get to keep my hand?
Oh, the hand they actually treated like it was like a revered object for like a day, and then they had a ceremony where they poured melted silver over it as they burned it in a fire.
That is fucked up shit,
That's
dude.
fucking awesome.
Do I
These
get to
people
keep
are
the silver
fucking cool.
remains of
No.
No.
You were at that time riding a cart.
That's going into the. That's
Actually, you watched it because you got your hand removed, and then you probably had to recover from that. So you actually were sitting kind of in a hay cart on the edge of this ceremony as they were treating your arm like it was some great sacrifice or religious.
You,
artifact.
on the other hand, are a piece of shit that stole from them.
They're not wrong, but kind of harsh.
This might be the reason why Vontelstone, like the odd brigand, like the low-level brigand or like horse thief, doesn't come around Vontelstone. There may be easier pickings when you don't have a collective of really, really harsh families that gang together in their own defense. Kind of makes you want, Clyde, that while they had just enough that you could steal from, but you realize that there are much better pickings out there than these crazy Nuadans. The problem that you find, Clyde, is that as you wander the lands, looking for your next meal and your next opportunity, that these small candle lights of hope, these abbots of Nuada Silverhand, have begun to spread their religion from village, town.
Oh, God.
And
So everybody knows I'm guilty because I'm missing the wrong hand. Oh, my God.
Yeah,
I'd have to learn how to wipe my ass with the other hand. Oh, my God. This keeps getting worse.
Poor Clyde.
Oh.
Shit.
So that was sort of the first part of Galath's story, where he kind of went from a kind of being court educated to more of a humble upbringing as the squire to Sir Avery Nalgray, son of Pelin. Pelin is a paladin. Sir Avery is not, or he's trying to become one, but he actually becomes a knight by the graces of those same abbots. Apparently, the knights are. No, let's check that back. There was a visiting noble that represented the regent, the High Regent of Nalbren, of the Pentarchy, and he knighted Sir Avery.
Yeah, I'm a squire.
This is not the same way that Sir Pelin was knighted. Apparently, Sir Pelin was knighted twice.
Oh.
Once in service to the High Regent, but also once in service to Nawada.